Was being the key one to your little brother.
Welcome to another episode of New Gameplay Today. I'm Brian Shea from Game Informer, joined by Kyle Hilliard, who is currently playing a game that I think a lot of us are excited for. Kyle, what are you playing?
This is God of War Ragnarök.
I like that pronunciation there, Ragnarök.
Yeah, gotta get the umlaut.
This is a game that is out this week. It is one of the highest scored reviews of our year at Game Informer, and this is a part of the game that is fairly early on, if I'm not mistaken. And,
yeah,
go ahead.
I was just gonna say, like, we're not showing the beginning because the beginning's really cool. God of War always has a crazy cool beginning, so like, would love for you to experience that on your own. But this is kind of, I don't know, a couple hours in, 3 or 4 hours in. This is just kind of doing sort of a benign quest that's not very spoilery, but I thought it'd be a good place to just kind of show off the game,
Yeah, so this is actually something that I am currently doing on my own save file, so it's great that you chose this particular area. And, this is kind of one of the first areas that you seem to have like a choice. All right, do you want to continue on like kind of golden path this game, or do you want to go do some side quests?
Which, man, I love that about this game so much, is that it's like, it is very clear, like, when you have a choice, like, there's no confusion about, like, okay, like, like, if you're playing a game and you're enjoying it and you get to a hallway that's like, well, I can go right or left. I think one of these is going to trigger a cutscene and start, I'm not going to be able to turn around. Like, you're never having that kind of confusion with God of War 2018 either, but Ragnarök as well, which is nice. There's
so many smart design choices with this game. I mean, like, I guess very minor spoiler, but like early on, Kratos is following a trail of something, and there's a dialogue option where he's like, "All right, we should go in here pretty early." What's the head's name? Mimir, right?
Mimir.
Mimir's like, "Oh, we should try to get in here quietly." And the developers put an empty crate right in front of you, and they know the player's gonna smash that crate. And yeah. Mimir goes, "Or you could do that." Like, it's such like they predict the player's actions so well. And then there's another time where there's like a creature off in the distance that you can't possibly reach, but they knew all the players were going to throw the axe at the character, at that creature, and Atreus goes, "I think he's out of range." And it's like the developers have just thought of everything based on like player behavior, and it's so smart, and they've done that so well with the design of like, all right, are we going to confuse players and make them regret going this way, like where they thought that was like the way to go for a side quest and it actually triggers the next cutscene? No, you're always going to have some sort of indication that it is in fact a cut or a side mission.
Yeah.
So you are taking it to these little frog guys.
Yeah, some of the new enemies in the game.
Some of these, like, the new enemies are actually rather challenging to fight. And there's these little lizards, like tiny lizards, not these guys, that run around.
Yeah.
And they can be a pain to hit, but I noticed that if you get his chains out, they are so much easier to take care of.
Yeah, you start with the chains this time around, which is interesting. I feel like I'm almost hesitant to mention the chains because that was such a big thing for the last game, But if you're watching this New Gameplay Today video for Ragnarök, I don't know. You should probably look up what happened in the 2018 game.
Yeah, and I mean, there is a recap at the start that lets you choose, like, hey, here's what happened in God of War 2018.
Yeah.
Which is a really smart thing because it basically jumps right in to the action in this story. And even as somebody who played the game when it came out and I haven't really gone back, I was a little confused at first, but then I was like, oh yeah, that's so-and-so, and that's what's happening here, and that's what's happening with these characters, and I was quick to kind of return to the world.
Yeah, it does a good job, I think. There is sort of like an expectation of you played the 2018 game. It is like a direct, it picks up like almost where the last one like literally left off. I mean, there's maybe like a few days maybe that occur off camera, so to speak,
Which is weird, because it's been 4 years since we played that game, if you played it just right when it came out.
I guess Atreus has aged a fair bit, so it's probably maybe like a few months or something like that. But yeah, I lost my train of thought. But it's it definitely it picks up like right where that game left off. What was I talking about, Brian? I got so distracted by the beautiful visuals of this game.
It is a very gorgeous game. You were just talking about kind of like the way it picks up at the tail end of the story of God of War 2018.
Right. Okay.
So I mean, I don't think you were really saying anything that you forgot to glance over there, but the traversal feels so good. We just saw him with the chains. I mean, if we didn't mention the chains, we would have seen him right there. So
yeah, right.
It's hard not to
take them out. We've been talking about them.
And these areas, again, it's like a side quest, so we're trying not to spoil too much here with this new gameplay today.
But that's the crazy thing. It's like I don't think I'll even go into the details of the side quest that's even happening here, because even that like ends up. I don't know if you finished it yet, Brian, but even that is a pretty big like thing, you know, that you could totally miss, which is crazy. The side quests in this game are wild, and how big they are, and how important they are for the story too, even. And
you were talking about, we don't have to get too into this, but you were talking about how long this game was when you were doing the review.
Yeah. It's weird because it's not really like a long game, right? It took me about 35 hours to beat and do most of the side quests, which isn't like, you know, that's not long for like, you know, like a JRPG or something, but for an action game like God of War, it's surprisingly long, but it like really earns it. Like, it doesn't feel like a long game. It's just so much happens. It's wild.
Yeah, it's not paced like a JRPG.
No, not at all. The pace never lets up in a way that's really impressive.
Oh my god, those things are so annoying, the nightmares.
Yeah, I gotta have Atreus take care of those. Oh, that guy's up there. I haven't even really been... You know what I should... one of the cool things I think that they expanded on a lot in this game is the combat arenas are like a lot more vertical now. So like, you know, coming up here is like... You're sort of jumping up and down a lot more, which is nice. And then you've got this move, which is new, which is just like this crazy slam that you can do very easily.
Death from above.
Yeah.
And I love like the juggling mechanics and how good it feels just like keep an enemy suspended in midair. This isn't quite like a Devil May Cry in that regard, but like it still like borrows heavily from that. Where it's like, all right, there's this idiot just kind of stuck in midair, and you just get to unload on him.
Let's see if I can come crashing down on these guys.
Yeah. If I'm not mistaken, isn't fire good against these guys?
Yeah, there's a little bit of that kind of like, you know, certain enemies are weak against your two main weapons. But man, I am just a sucker for the axe. It's funny because I love the original God of War so much, but I don't know. I just really like the way the axe feels. Like I will often just use it in lieu of the chains, even if the chains are doing a little bit of extra damage.
I've actually found that about myself playing through this game as well, where like the chains they're super cool, but it's also like, man, I wish that like the chains had a little bit more oomph to them at times.
I mean, you can certainly upgrade them and do all kinds of stuff, you know, like they get stronger, but the game was just sort of built from the ground up, I think, even, you know, for the 2018 game, to use the axe, right? So like it just feels like the primary weapon, which is crazy that they pulled that off, like made a new primary weapon for God of War, you know.
Notorious for how part of the experience its primary weapons were in those first few games. God, but yeah, the combat just feels so good. The visuals are gorgeous. I am all in on the story so far.
Yeah, it's
what else do players have?
It's one of those games that it's like I couldn't put it down at a certain point where I was like, I'm skipping all the side quests, even though they're amazing. I just have to see what happens, you know. And that feeling sets in pretty early on. It's some of the best writing in games, period, I would say.
Yeah, it's just an incredible series. And this is I'm not somebody who was like a huge God of War fan prior to 2018.
Yeah.
Like I played like the beginnings of God of War 1 and 2, and I didn't play 3 or Ascension at all. So it's like, I don't know, like they just pulled me in, and I looked up kind of like the summaries of that original run of games, and I was like, okay, I understand like what happened, to like a very minor extent, and that has rewarded me with the stuff that you see in this game.
This is tough. I don't know if I'm going to be able to do this guy.
I think I missed this guy in my playthrough.
He's still there. Let's see. Because like it's also that thing of like I'm going back to an old save, so I don't have all my abilities that I've unlocked up to this point, you know. So it makes it harder in a different way, you know.
Yeah, because like
let's go.
You'll do a button input and it's just like, oh, that doesn't do anything right now.
Yeah, exactly. Oh. Trying to take out his little guys first.
Uh-oh.
What am I doing on the health front here? Oh, let's see. Dang it.
Come on, Atreus.
Mimir's like, you're on fire, Kratos. I'm like, thanks, dude. I appreciate it.
Mimir's actually very helpful in this game. It's always Atreus.
So that is actually like an intentionally very difficult little side boss, I guess you could say. It's not quite a boss. I mean, it's a mini boss is what it is, which is something that Ragnarok like really expanded on compared to the first game, where it was like you really kind of fought the same giant troll, which was like a cool fight, but you just ended up doing it a lot.
Yeah.
And here, I mean, they've just massively expanded the different types of enemies you're fighting and mini bosses and stuff like that. Yeah, and like that fight right there, it's like fully optional. You do not have to engage with that if you don't want to.
I'm still in the area, so I should go back and take him on.
Yeah, you should do it, man. I believe in you.
It's just the combat feels so good.
I did beat him in my own playthrough for what it's worth.
Likely story.
But yeah, it's one of those things to talk about the game, which if you're watching this video, it is out now. But you know, even writing the review and like talking about it beforehand, it's kind of hard to talk about because it's like you just kind of gotta trust everyone. You gotta trust me, you know, that it's really great, because I don't want to ruin anything for you. I don't want to tell you specific story moments as to why it's so great, you know.
God, yeah, just remembering all this stuff and kind of being transported back to how much I loved God of War 2018 through playing through this and then watching you play through this. Like, it's just giving me the itch to go and play more. Like, I'm going to neglect the rest of my work duties today and just go play God of War Ragnarok.
Sounds good to me. Yeah, I got to call it work duties when I was doing it, which was nice. Yeah, so this is like a little puzzle area. But yeah, I don't know. What else should we say? I don't even know, man.
Like, you've played a lot more than I have. I've only put a few hours in so far.
I guess that's true. Yeah, I have finished. You can read my review on the site. Gotta call that out. Let's see. Let me solve this puzzle here. We gotta bring this thing down so I can swing across it.
And the puzzles are cleverly designed from my experience so far. Like,
yeah, they're interesting without being overbearing, which is like a tough sort of thing to craft.
And they're always satisfying when you finish them. It's right in front of Atreus' face.
Yeah, he's fine. You know, I've taught him how to, you know, take an explosion to the face.
Be
That's part of being,
to flame.
You know, son of a god. God, these guys are all frozen.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, but the other thing is like the way the levels are designed and the way they like wrap around themselves. Like here's like a little shortcut that I unlocked now, so I couldn't come up here previously, but now I can climb back up here.
Mm-hmm.
And that, you know, that's like is really important for like puzzle areas like this where it's kind of this strange, like kind of like minor labyrinth. It doesn't really look like a labyrinth, but the way you sort of travel around it becomes very labyrinthian, and like it's just so well designed, and just even in terms of like where you're looking at, where it's like directing your vision to even look at and that kind of thing. Of like, oh, make sure you're checking out what's going on over there. Just like the way the camera moves and stuff like that. It's just every inch of the game is just like really taking the player's sort of perspective into consideration. Like whether that's dialogue from characters like we were talking about earlier, or even just like where the camera is pointing you toward and that kind of thing, you know?
Yeah, like you even just paying attention to like where Atreus is looking, and that'll sometimes give you like a hint that there's like a side path that you can unlock or go up or something.
Yeah.
It's just a very smartly designed game that's also a hell of a lot of fun. So,
Yeah.
Kyle, I think that's a pretty decent look at God of War Ragnarök. Anything else you want to say before we sign off here?
No, go check out the review. Should have an interview with the director, Eric Williams, up on the site pretty soon as well. Just talking about it's not going to be a spoilery interview, but very much just like here was how here was my emotional state working on this gigantic game. So hopefully we'll have that up soon. But yeah, great game. Go play it.
Yeah, and you gave it
Watch
a
recap of 2018.
9.5 out of 10, right?
Yeah, 9.5 for God of War Ragnarok. One of my favorites of the year. Like, it's gonna be a fight when it comes down to it. Between this and Elden Ring, I'm gonna call it now.
Ooh, wow. High praise from Kyle Hilliard. Well, Kyle, thank you for giving me a tour of God of War Ragnarok, and thank you so much to everybody who watched this video. If you liked it, hit like and subscribe. What's the harm? Just do it. It's sitting right there. But for now, thanks for watching. We will see you on the next episode of New Gameplay Today.